Hello, I'm George Cairns, and in this video lesson we're going to use Digital Photo Professional 4, Canon's free image editing software, to enhance image detail, and that's going to enable us to tease out delicate details such as this fine fur without exaggerating picture noise that might already be in the image. So the first thing to do is to copy this image onto your computer and then browse to it using the folder window here, and then we can click on the thumbnail, pop up to Edit, click on the Edit Image button, and that gives us a nice clean window with the tools palette to the right. And the one we're interested in is this one here, the Adjust Image Detail panel. So click to get the tools like so. Before we start to adjust the image, I'm just going to set up my workspace by clicking down on this icon, and that magnifies the image to 100%. And that's very important because only at 100% can you decide exactly how sharp or soft the image is. So you can see here that this fur is looking quite soft, and indeed you can also spot things such as picture noise. Here we've got some chrominance noise. You can see these blotches of purple and green, and we've also got luminance noise, which is this grayscale noise pattern. If we go down to here, we can see that the ISO setting used to capture this picture was 320. So that's quite a high ISO setting, and that's given us a little bit of noise, which is especially noticeable in these areas of background bokeh. So the challenge we face is to smooth out the background bokeh noise here without softening the already rather soft looking fur. And we want to sharpen up this fur without exaggerating this picture noise. But fortunately we can do all those things using these tools here, the noise reduction sliders and the sharpness sliders. We've also got a sub window here, which is quite useful if you're viewing the shot at a smaller magnification. Let's say we go to 50%, you can't quite see the noise so clearly, but if we click in here and move over to an area that we want to analyze, such as the eye with a bit of noise and a bit of fur in the same scene, the sub window enables us to view this sampled area at 100% so we can clearly see the noise and the softness of the fur. Do make sure you click 1:1 so you can see it at 100%, and you can click and drag to fine tune this position here. But it's also nice to work with the whole window at 100%, so I'm going to go back to this option here to zoom in more closely. Before sharpening the fur, we're going to reduce the noise in the bokeh. And the easiest noise to get rid of, fortunately, is the ugliest noise, the chrominance noise. These purple and green blotches here can be smoothed out quite easily by clicking on Reduce Chrominance Noise and dragging it all the way to the far right. And that gets rid of these patches here without getting rid of the luminance noise. You can still see the grain there, but those horrible blobs and splodges of purple and green have disappeared. Next thing to do is to get rid of the luminance noise, and to smooth that out we can use this other slider, Reduce Luminance Noise. If I drag that too far to the right, it'll smooth out these areas, but it's also smoothing out important detail in the rest of the shot. So we're going to get a balance between smoothing noise and keeping other things sharp. So around about 4 will do a fairly good job in this particular picture. We can come back and fine tune this slider later on if need be, but the next thing to do is to try and tease back some of the soft areas here in the dog's fur, and to do that I'm going to click on Sharpness. Now we're automatically set to Unsharp Mask, and we are going to use this particular tool, but you can also just have a sharpness slider. If we drag that to the right, this increases the contrast around edges in the image, and that helps fine details pop out, but it's also increasing the contrast around particles of noise as well, as you can see in this part of the photograph. So that's quite an ineffective way to sharpen up these delicate fur details. So what I'm going to do is take that back down to 0, and we're going to go and use the much more useful Unsharp Mask tools. So the first one to work with is Strength, which is very similar to the tool we used when we were adjusting sharpness earlier on. And if we drag this to the right, it again increases the contrast around edge details. And you can see that's giving us a little bit of clipping there in these brighter highlights. We're bringing out the noise again in the background. So that's too strong an adjustment. Let's drop that down to a more subtle 4. And then we can increase the spread of the contrast change as well by dragging the finer slider to the right. If we go too far, we can end up with rather large spreads there, and that can create white or dark halos around the edge of contrasting areas in the image. But in this case, let's take it to around about 6, just to increase the spread a little bit and make the fur stand out and look a little bit sharper. If you haven't got the highlight clipping warning turned on, so you don't have these little red patches appearing, you can always turn it on by toggling this option, like so. And there's a little bit of clipping due to the sharpening, but that's not important because these areas here don't really have any important texture or detail. And these areas in the eyes are specular highlights, and they're pure white anyway to create a nice shiny eye for the dog. So don't worry about clip patches appearing if they're this small. I'm going to turn that off for the moment, and then we can continue adjusting the other slider, which is Threshold. And basically this is the volume of these sliders combined. We can turn it right down by dragging it to the right, Now we've got a really blurry looking background there, a very soft looking fur. Or we can reintroduce the combination of strength and fineness by dragging the slider to the left, and that is sharpening up the fur a little bit more while keeping the background noise at bay. And as we're editing a RAW file, we're making non-destructive edits. We can go back to the original photograph at any stage, and we can fine-tune things as well using these sliders. So I'm just going to pop the amount up a little bit more, the strength to 6. I'm going to drop fineness down to 3 to reduce the spread of the contrast change around edge details. And I'm going to drop threshold down to 4. And that should still look sharper in these areas while softening the background noise there. So let's finish off by comparing the before and after versions of the image. I'm just going to zoom back up to 100%, and then I can click here to toggle through different before and after options. We're looking at it vertically at the moment. Here's the after version. You can see the fur's looking sharper. There's the before, it's looking a lot softer. And let's have a look at the noise as well. And you can see nasty color noise here with these purple and green blotches, but in this area, they've been reduced thanks to the reduce chrominance noise option. So this is a great way of just seeing how sharp your important details are looking and how soft the noise is looking.